Hello everybody, my name is Raxef, and today I want to talk with you about the latest build in the patch 7.3 public test realm. Now, before I go on any further, I do need to let you know that this video will contain spoilers, so if you want to experience patch 7.3 in a spoiler-free way, then please feel free to click away. But if you don't mind learning a bit more about the lore that's going to be happening in patch 7.3, then feel free to stick around. Now, with that out of the way, I want to get on with the first voice line. Now, the first clip that I'm going to be playing comes from Kil'jaeden, and he says a couple of things, but one string of his lines stands out from the rest.
My people, I have called you here to share a revelation. For so long, we Eredar have been alone in the universe. We need not endure this solitude any longer. He has shown us a path to a new future. In partnership with our new ally, the light of the Eredar will shine bright across the cosmos. I ask you now to raise your voices in praise. Praise Sargeras, the beacon of our civilization, shining bright upon what we feared was an empty void. The Triumvirate has received a visitor from another world. He offers us power unlike any we have known before. I will hunt you across the stars, traitor! Even if it takes 1,000 years! Such power, and he speaks the truth.
So those voice lines are clearly from a flashback of some point that we're either witnessing as the player or that we're being given a vision of when we're on Argus. It's basically detailing what is happening with a younger, pre-corrupted Kil'jaeden, who Sargeras has gotten in touch with and has convinced to join Sargeras' crusade. Now, so as you can see, Kil'jaeden has brought together the Eredar, and he's trying to convince them, much in the same way that Gul'dan was trying to convince the orcs to drink the blood of Manaroth. Kil'jaeden is trying to convince the Eredar that this is the way, that this new ally named Sargeras is going to help them bring peace and order not only to their world, but they're also going to help the Eredar thrive throughout the universe. So that's an interesting parallel that I find right there. And the last part of the flashback, when he says that he's going to be pursuing that person to the ends of the universe, clearly he's referencing Velen. He feels betrayed by Velen, who doesn't go along with Sargeras' plan and who flees. So you can clearly sense the hatred that Kil'jaeden has for Velen, particularly at that point. Something interesting about that very, very last line, where he's talking about the power that this person has and how he spoke the truth. What I'm wondering is if he's referencing Sargeras' power. He somehow witnessed Sargeras' power, and he believes that Sargeras is as powerful as Sargeras tells him that he is, or perhaps he's referencing someone else, maybe us, the champions, or maybe some other Titan in the Pantheon. We don't really know yet, but it'll be interesting to find out who that is. But I do think that ultimately he is referring to Sargeras' power. The next voice line that I want to play you is a conversation that Aman'Thul is having with the Prophet Velen and Illidan. And now, for those who don't know, Aman'Thul is the head of the Pantheon of the Titans. He was the first Titan. He's also the brother of Sargeras, so that gives you kind of an idea of what his power is like and what his standing is. However, it is important to note that all of the Titans, besides Sargeras, are in a very diminished state at this point in Argus. They have very, very limited power. They are still, more powerful than the mortals coming from Azeroth, but they're certainly not as massively and unbelievably powerful as they were back when the universe was being created.
No. We will use the last glimmer of Argus's power to bind him here. The seat of the Pantheon shall become Sargeras' prison, and ours as well. A sacrifice must be made. Return home, children of Azeroth. Protect the final Titan.
What Aman'Thul is explaining there is that he and the rest of the Pantheon are going to use their power and combine it with the soul of Argus to basically seal away Sargeras, putting an end to the crusade. However, major spoiler here, it does seem like they do need a little bit more help, because even though his line is not present in this voice line, basically Illidan volunteers himself to take a seat at the seat of the Pantheons, and he basically, I guess, melds his power with the other Titans and with the soul of Argus to help completely seal away Sargeras. So an interesting little duality there. You know, Illidan started out as you know, the betrayer and someone who was jailed, but now he's sealing himself away once again, but this time to become the jailer of Sargeras, ultimately putting an end to Sargeras' reign of terror and the entire crusade. You know, once Sargeras is locked away, then that's the end of the Legion. So this conversation is taking, I'm assuming, towards the very end of the patch 7.3 storyline, if not the very end. So you know, Velen is there and Illidan is there, and we're there, of course, because Aman'Thul is telling us that we've done our job. They're going to be sealing away Sargeras. Now what we need to do is return to Azeroth and take care of the soul that is inside Azeroth, which I'm assuming moves us into patch 7.4 or maybe the next expansion. We don't quite know yet, but that definitely seems to be where the next part of the story is headed. Next, I want to speak with you about the Aggramar voice line that we have. Before I do play the voice line, once again, Aggramar is another Titan. He was a lieutenant of Sargeras back when Sargeras was uncorrupted. Once Sargeras betrayed the Legion, Aggramar took up his role as the champion of the Pantheon and actually fought with Sargeras when Sargeras, like I said, became corrupted.
Mortals, I wasted millennia fighting to spare you from corruption. Until at last, my eyes were opened to the truth. You are the corruption. We will save the universe by wiping all memory of you from existence. Soon comes the awakening of my brother, Argus. Together, our new Pantheon will join the Master in breaking your fettered world. But you will not live to see it!
So clearly we know that Aggramar has returned in some form. We've seen it on the PTR. We know that he's going to be a boss. What's really interesting is that before this point, we always assumed that Sargeras had slain Aggramar when Aggramar went to face him in battle one final time. In fact, I believe the description was that Sargeras had cleft him almost in two with the force of his power. So it seems that Sargeras has either resurrected him or somehow brought Aggramar back to life and also corrupted him, turning Aggramar over to his side and thereby therefore forcing him to fight the players. So So we don't know exactly what's going on in terms of how that whole process happened, or if Aggramar was even actually slain by Sargeras. Maybe something completely different happened. But you know, Aggramar is definitely a bad guy. He's not being tricked or anything. He's certainly been fully corrupted by the powers of Sargeras. So that clears up at least a little bit in terms of why we are fighting Aggramar when originally we had thought him to always be a good guy. And lastly, I want to play a couple of Sargeras' lines for you. And in these voice lines, Sargeras is speaking with Aggramar.
The circle nears completion. The mortals must not disrupt the rebirth. Become the instrument of my wrath once again, Aggramar. End this incursion of the light. The hour of rebirth draws near. Are the souls prepared? One still eludes us. Her essence is needed to ensure the victory of my crusade. When my new pantheon rises, no power in the universe will stand against the Legion.
So in that voice line, like I said, he is speaking with Aggramar and getting ready to loose him on the mortals from Azeroth, which are us, the players. So in that he's talking about this hour of rebirth and the souls being prepared. He's referencing the souls of the Titans on Argus. So throughout this whole campaign in patch 7.3, Sargeras is attempting to basically awaken Argus, awaken the soul that's within Argus by using the powers of the pantheon, of those diminished Titans to basically spur on this rebirth. And whether this soul is going to be this awakened soul in Argus is going to be a standalone, or if it's going to be some sort of vessel for Sargeras, we don't really quite know yet. We do know that there is a boss called Argus in the raid in patch 7.3, but we don't really have much more information in that. When he mentions one still eludes us and references her as the Lifebinder, basically what she is he's referencing Aenir, the Lifebinder, who is a Titan. Apparently, she hasn't been captured or subdued yet, and her power is very vital to this plan. I'm guessing it's because she's the Lifebinder. She has to do with creating life, so she probably would be very responsible for awakening life within the planet Argus, but ultimately we still have to see for ourselves. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There was quite a bit revealed here as with these voice lines. The lines themselves were actually data mined a little while ago, but it's still kind of cool to have these voice lines. I love how Sargeras sounds. I think some people might feel it's a bit cliche for him to sound so menacing and deep voiced, and he sounds like many other bad guys that we fought in the past. But I think his voice in particular, I mean, he's Sargeras. He is, at least at this point in the game, the big bad guy that we need to fight. The other part of the voice line that I thought was interesting overall was Kil'jaeden. I think it's interesting that, at least from what I can tell, Kil'jaeden sounds the same before he was corrupted and after he was corrupted. There's no kind of change in their voice. So I thought that perhaps, a pre-corrupted Kil'jaeden might have sounded a little bit different, sounded a bit more normal like the Prophet Velen, but maybe he's just always had this deep thunder in his voice as well. And I don't think they're going to be redoing those voice lines, so that's probably what we're going to get. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, then of course be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to say, then of course leave it in the comment section down below. I always love to get constructive feedback on these videos and to read what people have to say about not only the videos but also the topics that I'm covering. And of course, if you love my videos, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. With that being said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you later.